This morning we'll be looking at the complex employment interrelationship between the Nigerian government, labor unions, organization, management, and employees association, which has been a rocky one. The goal of the interrelation, which is to facilitate economic growth and assist all parties to achieve their objective, is manned by incessant conflict and a high level of strike propensity. And this morning in the studio on Daybreak, we will be looking at the task of governance and the place of government-labor relations. And to do justice to this topic, we have veteran unionist and administrator who will be joining us by Zoom from Geneva. And I'm talking about no other than Comrade Issa Aremu. Comrade Aremu is the Director General of the Micheal Imoudu Institute for Labor Studies in Illorin, Nigeria. Good morning, Comrade.
Good morning, but I'm disappointed in you. You don't know my name.
Comrade, I called you there. You probably didn't get it. I said, Comrade Issa Aremu.
No, you say I leave and take it properly back again.
Okay. From Geneva this morning, we have joining us the administrator, a veteran unionist, Comrade Issa Aremu. Comrade Aremu is the Director General of the Micheal Imoudu National Institute for Labor Studies, Illorin, Kwara State. Comrade, are we correct on this?
Yeah, precisely.
Thank you very much. I've known you for well over 2 decades, and we cannot afford to make mistake on your name. You are always a friend of the house. If any mistake comes out, it's not deliberate. Good morning, comrade, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Problem of relationship now. We have to discuss about government-employee relations, about communication.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us this morning. We also expect to join us in the studio from Adamawa State via Zoom, Dr. Bamaiyi Agoso. He's the public affairs analyst. He's a public affairs analyst who will be joining us in the course of this show. Comrade.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Thank you. We are looking at government labor relations this morning, and in line with our intro, it has been a very dicey journey with the labor union, largely on account of this incident complaints by the labor unions about the government about not having faith in the government in terms of respecting collective bargaining and the execution of agreements reached by labor. Why do we continue to have this undulating relationship? Right from your time when you were playing at the highest level of labor, you go into negotiations, and when it comes to implementations, something come amiss, the implementation does not meet expectations, and then you go back to negotiating table to renegotiate what you had already negotiated, only to return to the same thing over and over again. Why do we have this kind of suspicious relationship between labor and government in Nigeria?
Well, I think you need money to all your viewers through your platform. Let me also appreciate the Trust TV for deepening, dialogue, the way we can sustain democracy in larger society and in the workplace is through conversation. I appreciate what Trust TV does daily to foster that. And our discussion today is very timely, as you observed. It's been quite changing that well, the trenches, especially in recent time, that government and labor relations seems to be leading to dispute. If you also look at the issue holistically, maybe it depends on what we are talking about. I know that the TUC, the NLC, this government on a number of issues as the taxes arising from removal of petroleum subsidy, and they've with some comprehensive agreement. I think 15th agreement is quite holistic enough, and they talk of the need to implement presidential wage out. They talk of the need to set up to the presidential committee on the minimum wage, which negotiation will start next year. also talk of the need to provide for national transfer, of 25,000 naira to some millions of households. The provision of money for CNG buses. Now, if you look at all this, if you look at the agreement, I think what we need to ask ourselves and all of the media is to find out whether the agreement reached with the government being implemented. If you ask me on blank, from the findings at our institute, we know that the parties are keeping to the spirit of this agreement. As I'm talking to you now, the 35,000 presidential wage award been credited to all federal employees. I also know the committees on the new minimum wage constituted. So all what I want to say, I think it's also not appropriate to assume that sometimes the agreements are not respected.
Right. Comrade,
if I this for a long time, so agreements in many respects been have been implemented. Now, if there are challenges, areas that need a proper implementation, I think what is important for the two parties to resume back to nation to discussion. So the solution to this is through discussion. But if you also the state levels, maybe the story may not be the same. I know what is going on currently in Imo State. There we also had the serious disputes between the state government of Imo as well as organized labor there, partly and largely because of the way the crisis have been handled on the two sides. I think we already have it to get down. And it's a very unfortunate situation in which even the president of Nigeria Labour Congress, he was brutalized. It's been well advertised. That's unfortunate. I always say so that in the world of government and labor can disagree, but they shouldn't be disagreeing in such a way that have dysfunctional governments such as brutalization of a union member.
Right. Comrade, if I can just chime in, Comrade, we're going to talk about the Imo situation in a moment. Yeah. But on the at a federal level, Comrade, I don't know if you can hear me. The organized labor was supposed to meet last week, and they gave an ultimatum. They're not going to meet if the Minister of Labor, who I think happily right now would perhaps accept this verdict of the appeal court as senator representing one of the districts in Plateau State. They said they were not going to be in that meeting if the labor minister was in attendance. Talk to us about that and what we've seen over the past 8 years, this friction between organized labor and the immediate past Minister of Labor, Dr. Chris Ngige. What is happening there? What is your perspective as to why labor leaders want to have a conversation with the federal government but appear not to be on the same page with the arrowhead of the conversation, which in this case is usually the Minister of Labor?
Yeah, but exactly what I've said. Nation requires compromise. It requires tolerance. It requires perseverance. Of course, during the process of dialogue and nation, there will be disagreement. But all the parties should make sure that they are not disagreeable. I'm completely not comfortable with the position of NSC to say that you are not going to attend meeting because the Honorable Minister agree with the Honorable Minister of Labor. Who are going to talk with if you don't go there? It's like saying the Minister of Labor also says that he will not go to meeting. The President of NSC, you see, is there. With that one, you end of discussion, which is completely wrong. I think if you have disagreement, the best bet is go and communicate it and negotiate a negotiation table. War place, not a war. It's not a warfare place. What we're having is normal, inevitable disagreement in the world of work. It is not. It's not war of attrition in such a way to be able to go for meetings. You won't shake hands. So if you disagree, you go there and raise an issue negotiation table. I mean, you've said so. Veteran trade union have engaged in series of negotiations, both in private sector when I was in textile and at the Nigerian Labour Congress, we had major struggles, under the leadership of comrade Shomole. We also had Umar, the president of NSC that took over. Ayuba Waba also in negotiation. The principle is when there's a room for negotiation, not to make any party to boycott it. I think maybe that was just for the moment. But I also know that there's already overture between the two parties resumed back to negotiation.
Right.
There are about 15 items in that agreement, and a good number of the items have been implemented. If there are some that are not implemented, you go back to the negotiation table and you want to you want areas to be addressed. But once you say you are not going because it's agreement with one, until one minister comes. I mean, if another minister comes, there are too many ministers in Ministry of Labour. So if another one comes, you also say you are not going to go for the meeting. Later on, if you want to exit it, which I think is not really advisable, you have a vice president of the federation to come for the meeting, which is not within his obvious mandate. You also disagree. You say you want to meet with the president. You also meet to present, you disagree, where are you to? I think that's not the spirit of negotiation.
Right.
I don't think that's the way to do it.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that let's avoid personalization, weaponization of disagreement. What we do is to face the issues.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very confident that my comrades in NSC, TUC, the capacity to be able to make results from negotiation table, even when they are disappointed about the mode of implementation agreement. So, in summary, the absence, any deficiency you have in negotiation process calls for more negotiation, not less.
Right. Okay, comrade, just to double down on that point. For most Nigerians, over the past couple of years, we've seen this negotiation tactics that has left much to be desired, where Nigerians feel, listen, the intention might be good, but the way the labor is going about it is not strategic. More often than not, Nigerians see an emotional approach from the organized labor when addressing some of its concerns. And also it has become sort of like a sore point for most Nigerians who have become disconnected with the labor movement to a certain degree. Give me your idea about the psychology of these negotiations and the level of emotion that is healthy, that doesn't poison the conversation, especially with regards to what we're dealing with right now, where the organized labor seems to be really heightened emotionally because of what happened in Imo State.
Well, I'm not sure if there's any activity that is devoid of or sentiment. Even conversations they're having could be sentimental. But the bottom line, we don't need to lose our focus. As they say, there's a saying that when you are crying, you must. I think the factor driving some of these disputes are understandable. We have serious crisis of competition in this country. Can say collapse of real wages due to high cost of living, due to high inflation. We can talk of the new working, workers who are working and they remain poor on account of low pay. And their salary can hardly pay for accommodation, can hardly pay for food, can hardly take them home. So it's understandable as the case may be. But the solution to it, to this end, is not just to be emotional, as you was said, mental. Is to take advantage of the machineries for negotiation that we have. Said, I'm currently talking from Geneva. I've come for the board meeting of International Labour Organization. I joined this ILO as a necessity, and we have signed all the core conventions. When it comes to core convention dealing with negotiation, collective bargaining in Nigeria, a long way. And if you also play back, we've had so much in this respect. We've signed minimum wage laws since 1981. We have 6 minimum national wage, which many countries haven't done. We are planning to have a new one next year. They got this done through negotiation, through good faith on all the parties. I think we should take advantage of machinery. And interestingly, on the issue of living wage, I think I've this business for long. President Bola Tinubu is the most vocal, the most vehement in terms of his commitment, not just to pay minimum wage, he will pay living wage. He says so on May Day. We just concluded cabinet with, he said as much. So Labour should take advantage of this partner who was in governance of this president, who also recognized that you can't just pay minimum wage, pay living wage. Okay. You know, he has agreed there is collapse of free wage.
Okay,
he has also agreed that you can't drive recovery. We only pay working men. Okay. So all what is important is for the organized labor employers of labor to dictionaries of negotiation, okay, and get this done. No
Thank
doubt.
You, comrade. I would like us to stay with the situation in Imo, and as you would have observed, as somebody who is a key stakeholder in development around government labor relations, you accepted in your opening remarks that some of the things we see at the federal level cannot be talked about when you descend to the subnational. Give me a sense of what you think the relationship will be at the subnational level. And you talk about labor taking advantage of windows of negotiation. Does it appear, I mean, basically you can't shake hands with the clinch fist. Does it appear that these state governors understand this mechanism and are willing, to have healthy conversations? Because what we see at that level, it's state governors being completely detached from whatever these conversations are and going ahead to do whatever they like, regardless of the amount of shouting on the street or dissatisfaction by workers, as the case may be.
No, I think you need to be specific. You don't say state government. That's not true.
I said state governments, not all state governments.
No, when you say state government, be specific. Which one?
The case of Imo, is there for us to see. We know what the situation is in Kogi. No, I mean, as a microcosm of what is happening across several other states when it comes to salary. You know what the situations were in Benue State prior to this time. So, I mean, give us a sense of how much of these negotiations these state governments are willing to go into in good faith, not just negotiations that are they understand clearly that they are not willing to see through. And urging the labor on the other side to continue to understand their positions.
It's not just the federal government, but even private sector employers. I think we should focus on what is going on in private sector. So there will only be employers that have respect for decent work. There are employers that have respect for negotiation in good faith. There are also employers who are really opposed to negotiation, who will be recusant. That's why we have the unions to make case for them. In the case of Imo, I think it's unfortunate what we're having there. I also know that they started some negotiation before, far back as last year. They had an agreement. But according to Labour, the government has reckoned that. Government also had its sort of the stories that they try to implement some part of the agreement, but what has also clouded the crisis, which will not make us to make serious discussion, is that you need to look at the case. There's an attempt by each party to weaponize the crisis. You also know that even within the NS, there are reported cases of disagreement within the state council and them. So that will not make us. But the home on that is that if you look at the demands of the NSC, dealing with payment of pensions, not payment of arrests of workers, the idea of treating some workers to be ghost workers, all these confirm the fact that we have crisis of compensation. at some state level, including even that of IMO. The solution will be for each party to look at what the facts are. Once there's a window of negotiation, let's take advantage of this. So I'd like to employ Imo State government to not to weaken industrial relations, to be able to call on NSC to make sure they resume back to negotiate. Right. I would also like to urge the organized labor to take advantage, of any conversation so that we can resolve this problem. After the protest, after the brutalization, after the personalization, at the end of the day, what we want is payment for those who are owed, to make sure that workplace is not precarious, and that's what we can have advantage. Then lastly, labor is an exclusive list. We have process of creation, conciliation. So if there's put at the state level, you can refer to federal of labor. That's the machinery. Don't forget, similar thing was done before in Kaduna under Manuel 5, when there was a disagreement. Of labor intervened. They couldn't resolve through mediation. They went to industrial arbitration party. They had again to NIC, National Industrial Courts, which made judgment in which all the parties was to respect. So we have enough machinery for resolving crisis. Right. So what we have in IMO is dysfunctional. It's unorthodox. It has nothing to do with our normal industrialization, and that's why many people are wondering, what is on the eve of election in which every parties are so positioned. I think we should have a ball. Industrial relation is what it is. Okay. Take advantage of it. We shouldn't pollute it with any other relationship that's not industrial, because once you do so, it makes including conversations that were very difficult. Right. And it's hardens position. It leads to unnecessary method that has nothing to that we know as proper solutions. Crisis at hand. Yeah,
let's talk about that because for the Imo State government, for instance, the organized labor is stepping into the political arena just days before a gubernatorial election in Imo State by trying to nudge Imo State citizens or workers, at least, to go against the incumbent governor because of those negotiations that have been had to boost and improve welfare for workers in Imo State. That is the accusation, that the Labour is stepping into the arena so it can nudge voters against the Uzodinma administration, which, for most people is unacceptable. That, it is one thing to ask for improved welfare for workers. It's another thing to weaponize that situation against, the governor in a political sense. But beyond that also, talk to us about what you just pointed out, the litigation process where these arbitrations are ongoing, and the industrial court itself before last week's unfortunate incident that led to the attack on Comrade Joe Ajero, the president of the NLC. There was an injunction that stopped the NLC from going ahead with the protests. And we've also seen yet another court injunction that stops them. So tell me about why the Labour should cherry pick which injunction to follow and which to ignore, especially if we're talking about equity. As we all know, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. But apparently the Labour is choosing and picking which injunction to follow.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly was trying to that the spirit of negotiation calls for the faith. It called for respect for process. Negotiation calls for respect for the roots of engagement, and we have enough roots of engagement in this country. Nigeria is one of the countries in Africa that has good labor laws that were put in place. Progressive. It recognizes the right of freedom of association of unions. It allows for negotiation. You can't criminalize labor relations, and it also says conflict could be inevitable for the process of mediation, including the courts. But it's important, as you said, that all parties must obey the rules of engagement well. I mean, for the fact that the state government has accused Labour, of mixing up industrial relations with political relations or social relations. That was already raises crisis of, it raises a crisis of perception, which is not really, good for all the parties, as it may be. So I think it's important, that Labour in particular must be clear what the issues are. I agree the workers have the right to vote for whoever they want. They have the right to even have their political party. But when it comes to industrial relations, make sure that what you are doing has to do with the workplace issues. And that raises the issue of context. Election is this weekend, I think so, in the state. The context also shows that, for you that you're already exposed because you have a Labour Party, the party will think, that what we need is continuation of politics by other, so it's also good to get the content at which you want to carry out your actions so that you are circumspect. And as you also said, it's about rule of law. If we have confidence in mediation process, if the IAP or industrial court or even law courts are giving orders, all parties must obey them. Just like the court can say, do not workers. So also, workers who cannot engage each other if it's based on rule of law. So you evacuate that order if you need to do so. That's the way we used to do so. But I think this NSC too has also had time to obey the law. So all what I'm saying here is that we can't have a peaceful industrial relation system in which each party exercises its power anyhow, arbitrarily. Absolute power, corrupts absolutely, whether it's the power of government or the power of employers or even the power of media. What is important is that we must play by the rules of the game, carry the outcomes of any action we have taken. I'm completely not that simple labor issues, has degenerated to what we are witnessing in which first time in history.
All right.
President of Nigeria Labour Federation.
Thank you.
Was brutalized. I think what's important is that let's return back to the old series that have given us very wise outcome in which there is mutual respect. There will be mutual respect between government and labor, government and employers of labor, and which wise outcomes, as I've said before, place is a working place. Workplace is workplace.
Right.
Disputes are inevitable, but we overcome them. Right. And let's disagree, but don't let us be disagreeable.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
And I suppose those words were informed by experience over the years.
Absolutely.
Veteran unionist, comrade Issa Aremu. Thank you most kindly for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your sage views on this one. And thank you very much for joining us in Geneva. And wish you all the best in that event going forward. And we hope to speak to you soon. All right, that is Comrade Issa Aremu speaking to us just shortly about some of those developments Sunday where Nigerians remain divided about everything that is going on right now. The discontent with regards to how the organized labor is managing the situation is quite telling. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Daybreak returns in just a moment. Join us again.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not about you.
I'm coming. Let me finish.
Because there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No, it's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who have not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid attention, significant attention to gas.
to do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its high horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But I mean, just a short while ago, you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
It's the top of the hour. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daybreak, live on Trust TV. A quick reminder, you can catch up with the conversations with the program on the go through our live stream on YouTube. So check it out today alongside many of our other platforms on social media. Also check out our website, trusttv.com. Right, before we segue into more conversations regarding labor-government relations, let's quickly take a look at some of the highlights this morning. And of course, we start with the organized labor as Joe Ajero's assault. Labor says it has ordered power supply shutdown and flight suspension in Imo State.
All right, and to other stories, 36 governors to meet Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation chief on partnership for national growth.
And iPhones expose students to kidnappers. Parents are being warned in Al-Hikmah University.
And to the details of the story, the organized labor on Tuesday directed its members in the power sector to shut down electricity and fuel supplies to Imo State over the brutalization of the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajeru, last week, allegedly by operatives of the Nigerian police. The labor movement, comprising of the NLC and Trade Union Congress, also directed aviation workers to ensure the flights into and outside the state are suspended till further notice. The directive was one of the resolutions reached during an extraordinary National Executive Council meeting summoned by both the TUC and the NLC on Tuesday afternoon, after the expiration of a 5-day ultimatum earlier given following the brutal attack on Ajeru by the police in Owerri, in Imo State capital. Reading the resolution of the NSC, the NEC meeting to journalists at the Labour House on Tuesday evening, the president of TUC, Festus Osifu, also declared that the movement had resolved to begin nationwide strike on Tuesday, November 14, 2023. There has been widespread outrage by the organized labor accusing the Commissioner of Police in Imo State, Mohammed Barde, of complicity in the recent attack on Ajeru in Owerri. The organized labor last Friday handed the federal government a 5-day ultimatum to replace the Commissioner of Police, whilst also blaming Governor Hope Uzodinma, who is seeking a re-election of the attack on Ajeru, although the governor had since said he had no hand in the attack on the labor leader.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some of the day's other news stories today. The Nigeria Governors Forum has announced that it will host a meeting with the president of Global Growth and Opportunities at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Roger Voorhees, next week, Wednesday, in Abuja. According to the Director General of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Ashishana, Bayo Okauru. The dialogue with Voorhees is expected to open up new opportunities for Nigerian states to collaborate with the foundation on programs related to agriculture, poverty alleviation, digital financial services, education, nutrition, water sanitation, and hygiene. Voorhees oversees over 700 million naira in grants by the foundation in areas including agriculture development, financial services for the poor, global education, nutrition, water, sanitation, and hygiene. The Nigeria Governors Forum Chairman and Governor of Kwara State, Abdurrahman Abdurazak, has invited all 36 governors of the state to attend the meeting. Okauru added that the meeting demonstrates the Nigeria Governors Forum's commitment to leveraging global partnerships and resources to advance development across Nigerian states. And away from the Governors Forum, parents and guardians, especially those with the means,
have been warned to stop buying iPhones for their children in tertiary institutions across the country in order not to expose them to kidnappers and criminals. At the stakeholder forum with parents of students of Al-Hikmah University, Illorin, it was identified that such avoidable decisions had led to fatalities and emotional trauma. Speaking during the program, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Noah Yusuf, said students who display particularly expensive iPhones are attracting kidnappers, criminals, and burglars to themselves and the hostel. He disclosed that the boyfriend of a certain female student attacked and stole her iPhone in the hostel. The parents immediately replaced it with an iPhone 12 or 14 Pro the following day, only for the thieves to return and steal the new phone in another attack. The Vice Chancellor also stated that another female student was traced and shot over an iPhone. He said it was the grace of Allah that the university was able to revive her to continue her studies. According to him, there are several less expensive phones that can equally assist the students in their assignments and other schoolworks.
Listen, I understand where he's coming from. I think it's misplaced priority in putting the blame solely on acquiring expensive phones, right?
That's right.
First of all, iPhone 11 is not that expensive. Then again, the main issue here is crime and criminality within the university community. We have to fight crime. And, you know, what kind of country do we have to live in if you have to avoid buying what you want because you don't want to get mugged? And I can assure you, no matter how small your phone is, if they want to steal that phone, they will steal that phone.
Basically, so it's a question of addressing insecurity on campus or enhancing the means to secure the campus.
Exactly.
It's a self-indictment in a way, if you like. Why is putting the blame?
I don't think iPhones have a problem because they can steal any phone they want.
All right.
Let's bring in Dr. Agoso Bamaiyi, who has been standing by patiently for the past couple of minutes as he also weighs in on today's conversation regarding labor relations and the status quo right now in the country. Dr. Agoso Bamaiyi is a public affairs analyst and also a writer. Dr. Agoso, thank you most kindly for your patience. I appreciate you very much for joining us on Daybreak this morning. Your 2 cents as a Nigerian with regards to what the labor or the organized movement is doing on your behalf as a citizen to perhaps give you a sense that it is trying to cater to your needs by asking for improved welfare and services from the federal and state governments?
Well, thank you for having me. Let me start by saying that both labor and the government are necessary for development. And having said that, let me also say that in Nigeria, we tend to have this attitude of showing power. So when you occupy a position, you want to show that you occupy a position. And that's why you have a situation like we have in Imo State of the police attacking the labor leader, and some journalists and other people are there with him. And then you have the labor union coming back with this ultimatum, attempting to bring Imo State to standstill. In both, it's a misuse of power, and this is something we need to look at and talk to ourselves about Nigeria. It's a thing of attitude. You know, you go to other places, other climes. People sit in negotiation and done maturely, be shouting on anybody. They may be talking serious matter, very, very serious matter, but they stick to the point. They stick to the data. They do not bring emotion into it. In Nigeria, we tend to bring emotion into everything, especially if you occupy an office. It is clear that when people fight, you find either one or both of them asking, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Do you know how connected I am? I will deal with you. I will show. So in that attempt to show who is more powerful, who is more influential, who is better positioned, we actually miss out on the fact that we are servants to the people. And that the office we occupy is meant to help people to bring development and to move the country forward. So now we're having a classic manifestation of Nigerian attitude. Trying to, I am powerful, I am strong, I am influential, I can deal with you. Like I said, process we missed out on the essential, which is a development for the.
That's right. I would like to further expand your thoughts on this conversation, especially when you look at how labor-government relation has fared since the return to democracy in 1999 from the heydays of the now senator and former governor of the state, Adams Oshomole. Do you think that both at the level of governance and at the level of labor leaders that we seem to understand what the objectives are, or it is just basically an opportunity for showmanship? And I say this because from your standpoint, if you like, you will begin to notice that even Nigerians are becoming fed up with the whole drama. It doesn't seem to yield any result, or at least, live up to their expectation with regards to how they think this conversation should be managed and what the outcomes, the tangible outcomes, should really be. What we basically see is grandstanding between whoever, and conversations spiraling down to a point where the labor would say, if it's the chief of staff to the president, we are not having the conversation. If the minister is on the table, that conversation is not going to happen. What exactly is happening with regards to understanding how to keep an eye on the ball, so that at the end of the day, Nigerians can say, okay, we went to these negotiations with this demand in hand. This is what we have got from it. Maybe not exactly everything we want, but some milestone away from it. Why have we not been able to achieve that level of civility and outcome?
Again, it comes back, I said earlier, our attitude, attitude, that grandstanding, as you mentioned. When you grandstand, take your eyes off. It's no longer issues. It becomes about me. It becomes personalized. And that is why over the years we have seen labor who are very serious, very vocal, and they demand on issues, insist for things to be done. And then after their days in labor, they go into politics, they occupy a political office. Now on the other side, and we see a classic example is Adams Oshomole that you mentioned earlier. I mean, in his days as a labor.
It appears we are having some connection challenges with Dr. Agoso's, contact, but we'll try and see if we can work things out so we can, get his thoughts on some of those. Okay, I believe Dr. Agoso is back. So, Doctor, go ahead, please. We lost the connection for a second there.
Yeah, thank you. What I was saying is that we have to get to a point in Nigeria where we take away this attitude of grandstanding. Because, and I'm insisting on this, that we grandstand whether we're in government or we're in labor, because we've seen labor leaders who have gone to government and are now on the other side and are not as committed to pursuing labor as they were when they were labor leaders. So it's actually an issue of grants, using your position, trying to show who is more powerful, who can get what done, be respected more. And doing that, we take our eyes off the issues. The issue is the protection of the rights of the workers. The issue is development for the tree. The issue is getting the thing done so that as we move forward, we grow. It's not about me, whether I'm the labor leader or not. It's not about me, whether I'm the Minister of Labor and Productivity or not. It's not about me, whether I'm the police commissioner in a state. I have command over the police. Or I'm a brigade commander, I have command over a whole brigade. all of us, whatever office, whatever position we buy, we work for the people. And that should be the main.
Right. Okay.
In this situation, what's best for the people? And I am a negotiator. I work in the field of it. And I have chaired negotiations in communities that are conflict. And I have seen when we come to do these negotiations, the first 1 hour, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of fighting. Nobody will listen to the other person. But those of us who are the ones that lead the negotiation would have to keep calm. You have to feel calm. You know, constantly keep your eye on what there. Which is peace. Think about peace.
Right.
Reconciliation.
Okay.
And so keeping calm, we eventually achieve what we're for, and at the end of the day, we walk away having peace to the society. So the eyes of the people in government and the people in labor must be on the issues and not on grandstanding. Right now, as it has been in the past, it's always grandstanding.
Right. Doctor, unfortunately, unlike those conflicts that you have helped negotiate, there is no mediator here. You have those just two warring parties going at each other, you know, from the labor side and from the government side. Unfortunately, we don't have someone in the middle who has no dog in the fight to negotiate and say, okay, here, come to a particular solution. But also, the irony in all of this situation is, as Nigerians are looking at it from the outside, is that labor is fighting for Nigerians, whether it's Nigerian workers or Nigerians as a whole. That is what they're fighting for. That is their mandate, isn't it? But also, you have a new government in charge of running the affairs of the country that is promising renewed hope. And the government will also say our #1 job is to make life easier and better for Nigerians. But unfortunately, as they all battle to make life better for Nigerians, that is what not Nigerians are seeing who are at the receiving end of this failed or struggling negotiations. What do you think is going through the minds of Nigerians that you speak to regarding this face-off between the organized labor and the current government, whether at federal or at subnational levels, who apparently are supposed to be striving and fighting for better living conditions for Nigerians from both ends?
Well, let me go back a little bit to the way you started the question. When you said that in this case, there are two antagonists, nobody in the middle mediating. The truth of the matter is that development is in the middle. The citizens of Nigeria are in the middle. Ordinary people are the ones that suffer. And you know that African saying that where two elephants clash, the grass gets. And that's the situation here. The NLC is an elephant, and the government on the other side is also an elephant, and the ordinary are the grasses. And they're the ones that are getting hurt. There are delays to development, delays to what needs to be done, and the people suffer. So let me come back to you. I think that we have gotten to a place, and both SC and TUC, and also the men should understand this, there is a trust crisis right now in Nigeria. I mean, the ordinary people do not trust the government. Whatever the government said, the ordinary people will wave it off. And that is a major problem. The other I need to point out is that the ordinary people are also have become tired of NLC. I was talking with him the other day. He said to me, well, they are making all this because they are not in government. They want to be noticed. Just wait. When they leave labor, they are going to run for political office. And once they occupy political office, they are going to be quiet. They are not making all this noise that they are making. Sometimes the government will just call them by the side, you know, push some money under the some clandestine negotiation, and they become quiet without achieving what at the beginning they started about. So there's no trust for the labor unions among ordinary Nigerians. There's also no trust for the government. That government is worse. Nigerians don't trust their government anymore. And when you have a situation like this, it's a recipe for crisis and more crisis and crisis. I think that by the actions of the government and the actions of the leaders, we should begin to achieve things, get things done that touch the lives of the ordinary people, that builds confidence in ordinary people, and the ordinary people can walk away. We have leaders interested in us, are interested in our situation, are interested in what happens to us, and leaders that are work for our good. That is what needs to be done. Let's stop all this grandstanding. It's not work for the good of the country.
Interesting. I mean, where you have a people who neither trust the labor movement nor the government, it does begin to sound like we probably would need a third force, you know, that we can better trust, you know, to carry the demands of Nigeria forward. But that would be another field we would explore, given the opportunity another time. I want to thank you very much, Doctor, for finding time to be with us on this show and offering these invaluable perspectives on this issue this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Doctor.